Ladies and gentlemen, the webinar will start in just 2 minutes' time. So 2 minutes to the start of the webinar. Ladies and gentlemen, just 1 minute to the start of the webinar. The webinar will start in 1 minute's time. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the webinar. We've got a very, very important topic we're going to be covering today, and that's a deep dive into marketplace strategy. For those of you who don't know, we run Club 50, which is 50 of the leading channel executives controlling huge channel revenues around the globe. And whenever we ask them, which is your fastest growing channel over the last 12 to 18 months, there has been one answer, and it's been marketplace. So today we're going to do a deep dive into marketplace strategy. We're going to be talking about strategy, and very shortly I will be introducing a great set of panelists who will basically be helping you understand what's going on in this very important area. Addy, next slide. So just a quick reminder that basically we are 3 weeks away from Channel Focus. We have record registrations for the conference. We still have a few places left. So if you are going to be joining us, you can scan the QR code on the right-hand side and register, but we have a fabulous audience and we are delighted that this is our 25th anniversary. So we want you to get involved. One of the beauties of these webinars is we have a lot of people talking, chatting, asking questions, and we very much want your input to the webinar. We want your questions so that we can cover the topics that you really want answers to. So without further ado, let me introduce our panelists. Our first panelist is Louise Mcavoy, and she's the VP of US Channel Sales at Trend. And basically, they are, for those of you who don't know, one of the world's leading cybersecurity solutions companies. She's passionate about the business, the company, the industry, and her team. Louise moved to California from Ottawa, Canada. She didn't know anyone in the country, so to pass the time one weekend, she picked up the book that changed her life, a book about summiting Mount Everest. It became her life goal, and all power to Louise. She made the summit on her first try in May 2018. Since then, she's spoken at over 70 events to help people realize their summit in life. A work dinner changed her perspectives on our food sources, and when she leaves high tech, her next goal is to be an activist and change how we view animals in our lifestyle. Our second panelist is Heather Margolis, and she's the SVP of Marketing at 360 Insights. Prior to joining 360, Heather founded Spark Your Channel, who are creators of through channel marketing automation platform and Channel Maven, a strategic channel marketing agency, which were acquired by 360 Insights in November 21. She's a recognized channel marketing expert and keynote speaker to a variety of audiences about entrepreneurship, building a service-based business, and B2B strategy, marketing, and channel marketing. She grew up in Massachusetts and now lives in Boulder, Colorado, with her husband and fellow entrepreneur Simeon and their 2 daughters and dog Zoe. Joe Sykora is the SVP of Worldwide Channels and Partner Sales at Proofpoint. He's a serial entrepreneur. He built and sold several IT companies from the mid-1990s to 2010, an outsourced IT provider, a managed security service provider, and an infrastructure as a service company. He was awarded Entrepreneur of the Year, Business of the Year, and served on several college advisory boards as an entrepreneur. He moved to the dark side, the manufacturing side, in 2010 with Fortinet, joining them during IPO, leading many of the areas of business until the end of 2017. He's recognized globally for sales, channel marketing, leadership, and is currently at Proofpoint, helping them accelerate their revenue. Joe is married with 3 amazing children under 9 years old. So you can find him running around like crazy, coaching Little League and spending time with his family in California. Richard Flynn is the co-founder and CMO of the Spur Group, an industry veteran with nearly 30 years of experience. Richard has helped many companies in the tech industry shape and execute their channel strategies and go-to-market approaches. Currently, Spur Group has nearly 250 go-to-market employees, sharing their expertise across a range of sales, marketing, channels, operations, and data projects. Richard's a firm believer that we face a new renaissance of channel innovation as companies redefine their go-to-market approach and as cloud solutions and remote workers become the norm. We see many new approaches as vendors satisfy widening range of customer needs, embracing different types of partners. In his off time, Richard focuses on family, painting, and architecture. He finds his once empty nest become crowded once again as his college-age kids find their way home during these current times. And last but by no means least, we have Kevin Dean, and Kevin is the Chief Strategy Officer of Mindmatrix. Kevin has 2 decades of channel experience. He's led digital programs at 2 Fortune 500 companies. He loves music of all genre. He plays bass guitar and has been scuba diving in the Red Sea and several other exotic locations. So there's a cast of characters for you. We have a lot of ground to cover today, so we're going to split this really into 3 sections. One, we're going to talk overall in terms of strategy with marketplaces. We're then going to dive into traditional marketplaces, and we're then going to have a really close look at private offers and co-sell strategies in those marketplaces. So let's start with a question for each of you, and if we could be fairly brief. Joe, in terms of your business, which marketplaces are most important for you and why?
That's a good question, Rod. For us, AWS, right? Public marketplaces are where we're seeing the most traction. It's where we're spending the most resources. We also use, obviously, distribution marketplaces as well, so we can talk about those today as well. But where we're putting most resources is in the public, right? In the co-sell private offers, which we'll talk about in the next section. But important route to market for sure.
Excellent. And same question for you, Heather. Where do you see your clients focusing at the moment?
Well, some of the marketplaces are our clients, and figuring out how to incent and drive go-to-market through a marketplace with solution providers if they're adding services on top of the execution of the marketplace. So I would say no one is more or less important than others.
Okay. And same question to you, Kevin.
We're seeing a lot of our customers spending a lot of time on AWS. That is a big one for sure. And we're also seeing customers building out private marketplaces as well. That's becoming something that's become important as well.
And Louise, where's the focus for trend?
We're really following what our customers are looking for. So we have really heavily invested in our relationships with AWS, and we've also, the second approach being with Azure. So it's really a customer first approach, and that's how we're building it.
And Richard.
We spend most of our focus on the hyperscaler type of marketplaces. So, Google, Amazon, Microsoft, and, it's probably about 40% AWS, 30%, Azure, and maybe 10, 15% Google.
Okay. And a really important question, Joe, should the channel team own the marketplace strategy?
My opinion, yes, right? I've always owned the marketplace strategy the last few companies I've been at. I think it's important for the channel to own it because there has to be a channel motion rather than conflict, right? And just like any sales go-to-market strategy, if the channel isn't involved, there's always that potential for conflict. Marketplaces are great, and I think a lot of partners are excited about it, but you also have to make sure that there isn't this bad behavior that forms where things start going direct through marketplaces. It's going to happen at sometimes, but I like to always put it under our channel organization. So I think all of you out there that are looking for it that don't already have a practice, it's definitely something you need to lobby, right? Because standard resell, if you kind of look at the crystal ball of the future, in the next few years, I mean, standard resell, if a partner is not adding any type of value or managed services, it's going to probably go through a marketplace. So you've got to have that route to market under channels.
Louise, do you agree?
I would agree. When you look at marketplaces as a route to market, it's just another vehicle in which we can transact and sell to our end customers. And it can, it's through our customers, and, there could be a distie involved. It is with an alliance partner like AWS. It's another route to market. So yes, I agree. It should be part of the entire channel strategy and your channel.
Okay. And Heather, for me, there are really two types of marketplaces. There's the traditional marketplace and the private offer co-sell way of interacting with marketplaces. Would you agree with that?
I would. I think it really comes down to where the customer wants to buy. If you take marketplaces into the consumer focus, we're all starting to use marketplaces, right? I can't remember the last time I went to a store instead of going online first and purchasing. We're in the middle of school shopping, right, Joe? I just got all my kids' stuff on Amazon. And I think we need to think about that from the tech perspective as well. Where do the customers' habits develop and where do they want to be buying, and ensuring that we're supporting them in that way. It also means that our channel is shifting, right? I think all of us were around 20 years ago when we were like, hey, partners, you got to move from on-prem to the cloud. Let's get to the cloud, everybody. It's going to shift your business. And some of the partners were like, you know what? I have 2 houses, 3 cars, and a boat. I'm good. I'm going to retire. You guys can take everything to the cloud. And I think from a marketplace perspective and private offers, we need to see some of our technology solution providers and MSPs are going to come with the trend and add services on top of marketplaces. And some are going to say, I'm good. 2 houses, 3 cars, a boat, I'm out.
Mm-hmm. And Richard, with your clients, if you look at the guys focused on, say, the enterprise and the guys focused on the small and medium business market, do you see a distinct difference in terms of what they're doing with marketplaces?
Yeah, but I think that's more a question of I'm not sure everybody's gets it quite yet, if you don't mind me being a little pejorative. I think that enterprise customers are seeing the value. I mean, I think the biggest trend in marketplaces is it's where customers have to buy. They have moved to a cloud platform for their core infrastructure, which means that they already have to make a choice about a hyperscaler, marketplace that they want to operate on. And almost all of them have these great big commitments that they need to be delivering against. And so their focus is on burning down that commitment, which means that if you want to help with that, you have to be tied to that. So to the degree that more enterprises have bought larger contracts and have a more urgent need to buy down their services, they're kind of leading this process. But small businesses are definitely moving more and more to the cloud, and they want more and more cloud services in terms of what it is that they're trying to do. So it's an inevitability that this is where your customers are going to end up buying most of their purchases.
Kevin, you're nodding frantically on that one, I see in the background.
Yeah, 100%. I think this is definitely the direction that everyone is moving, and it's just super important that everyone takes a very strategic look about where their business is heading and make sure that they're aligning appropriately.
Mm-hmm. Louise, just overall, is marketplace new income? Is it simply a shift of existing income to a new means of delivering it? Where do you see it with the businesses that you're in?
Yeah, good question, Rod. We're seeing it both. So there is a share shift going from what was an on-prem license going to marketplace. So that shift. But because there's so many offerings on marketplace, like there's offerings around services and then the bundles and all these different approaches that in a normal world you wouldn't necessarily see. We are seeing an uptick in the growth just because there's more things that are available now in marketplace when you're bundling everything and you're seeing it all on that online. It's an easier buy. Yeah, so it's a shift plus a growth.
Mm-hmm. And Joe, what are you seeing?
Yeah. Listen, I think it's important to set expectations, right? So if you're pitching a marketplace route to market to your executive team, I often say I set a low bar for new business, right? Because the reality is, I think if you really peel back the numbers, I've typically seen anywhere from say 20 to 30% on the high side. So it is a shift, but like Louise mentioned, we are seeing growth within clients because of marketplace, and some of it has to do with Richard mentioned. If you're focused on enterprise, all of the enterprises are locking into contracts, right? Because if they get discount on their compute, they get 100%. It used to be 50%, but they get 100% retirement of that commitment through marketplace, right? So we've seen this phenomenon around buying behaviors that's really from the CFO level, right? With enterprises that are saying, hey, you will buy this on marketplace. You also have this phenomenon where it's time limited, where if they're coming to the end of a contract and they have to do spend, they will buy more, right? So that's a pretty cool phenomenon that's happening. And so that is what we've seen, right? So existing customers have shifted buying behavior to burn this spend. But we say to them, honestly, there's two things going on. One, they spend more, but also they're not negotiating as much with say, a different motion. So that's a pretty unique thing that we've seen. And both Amazon and Microsoft have done a really good job locking up those enterprises. They have a lot of sellers, and they're out there pushing these contracts because I think most of us too on the software side, we're also a client, right? So our CFO understands it, and so it becomes this new place for funding for some people. So, anyways, that's what we're seeing, Ron. But I would say, don't set expectations too high on, hey, it's going to be all this net new business, right? Mm-hmm. I think that's key. There will be some share shift for sure.
Okay. And how about the partner's role? Heather, if you look at traditional marketplaces, a lot of people are saying, hey, if the customer's just going to go in and click and purchase, there is no role for the partner. How do you feel about that?
I mean, I think in some cases, absolutely. If the customer knows what they're doing and their tech team is still intact, and I heard we're in a recession, although I'm not seeing signs of that, a lot of times partners become more valuable than ever. But it's really on the partners to then build up a service practice around the solutions that the customer is buying in the marketplace. So I think, like I said before, some partners are coming along and redeveloping their business, and some are sort of staying where they feel more comfortable and staying away from marketplaces. We used to say IoT 5-10 years ago, like it was this new thing, and now it's just become part of our conversation. I think the same is going to be true for marketplaces. It is here to stay. It is part of our business, and the partners need to develop a practice around it.
Excellent. And Richard, what what do you think? How are partners accepting marketplaces? How are they getting involved?
So let me preface this by saying, I think there's absolutely hardware marketplaces. So what I'm talking about is not for vendors, it's for partners. I think that partners need to look at how much of their business is through resale. And they need to recognize that an inevitability of that revenue is going to shift to marketplaces. So if they're a high resale oriented company, that is going to challenge them as purchasing departments become more interested in the buy down than they do in actually the transactional discounts that they get on individual resales. But that creates a tremendous amount of opportunity for partners that are focusing on a value add. And so if they are either, servicing those accounts, if they are providing their own intellectual property in terms of a solution that's being built on that, they have their own maybe proprietary products or solutions that customers, gain extra capability or other types of things. This is going to really make it, easy for them. I think, what Amazon has just done with their, what do they call it? Their service provider, private offerings is the first shot in really these marketplace companies really trying to figure out how to bring in partner ecosystems into the vendor play. And, at least on paper, I don't have enough experience yet to know whether or not they're executing it well. But at least on paper, it's really, really compelling in terms of, the value proposition for the marketplace, for the vendor, and for the partner. So it's a wave of the future. I think it was probably one of the biggest innovations that's come in the marketplace in the last couple of years. And if you're unfamiliar with it, you should learn more about that program.
Mm-hmm. And Louise, what's the receptivity to marketplaces been of your partners, and what's been Trend's role in getting them to accept marketplace?
So I think we all have to agree that change is coming, and change is really good, and change is good for the channel. I think the channel has been in a set motion for a really long period of time. And I think those who are adaptable to change will thrive because there's lots and lots of opportunity in marketplace. Those who are the traditional channel, resell, go out to lunch, do the golf, that whole thing, I think that's going to go away. We're seeing it now where it's not about the MDF and the margins, but like all of that traditional stuff. It really is about the EDP, the CPPO, the MPPO, the things that we did, we didn't even have these words or these acronyms before, and it's becoming the wave of the future of the channel. So I think you have to change, you have to be adaptable. And if not, it's, kind of like what Heather said, that traditional reseller, I don't know where they're going to go. They really do have to add value. When I started in this role at Trend Micro, I was really fighting this, I don't want a fulfillment model. I don't want, I want the channel to be value add. Well, this has now forced it. If you are not adding value as a channel partner, your customer can go around you and just buy direct off marketplace. So there's this real mentality now. You got to really, it has to be value add, or where's your place in this whole buying cycle?
And what are you seeing? You're in touch with an awful lot of partners, Kevin. What's their attitude to the marketplace, and could you split them into two groups? What are you seeing as the key trends?
Yeah, so I think what we're seeing is that there definitely is. We're seeing a lot of our customers building their own. So I think that's one on the private offer side, and then definitely the public solutions are another trend that we're seeing a lot of. So I definitely think there are the two that we have to stay focused on. And I think that there are opportunities for everyone, especially when you start looking at the private offer side, to build out robust solutions. But like everyone is saying, it truly is about creating solutions and adding value. And that's where you're going to get the greatest value.
Okay. And I've got a couple of questions coming in from the audience, which I'll pick up on in just a moment. But Heather, if I could come over to you, let's deal with traditional marketplaces, point, click, buy, getting set up there. What are the key things that people should be looking at there?
Keywords. You are now in SEO land. You need to make sure that when someone comes in and searches for you, but they don't know exactly what they need, that they're finding you. Descriptions, how easy or hard is the solution to implement? Monitor your reviews, make sure that you're getting customers who are happy with your product, whether or not they bought it on a marketplace, or going into the marketplace and adding positive reviews, so that you are first and foremost amongst your competitors. I think one of the drawbacks to a marketplace is you're there with all your competitors. One of the benefits to a marketplace is you're there with all your competitors. So it's important that you're standing above and beyond those.
Mm-hmm. And Kevin, what setup, getting started, what are the key things?
Yeah, so when you are creating your listing on a marketplace, it really is about quality, making sure that you're in alignment with everything that's required from a listing perspective, ensuring that you've got a great user experience, that you have the technical specifications that will be in alignment with what your offering can have and add. And so that's critical when you're looking at your listing.
Okay, and I'll fire this one back at you, Heather. What are your thoughts on how software sellers can differentiate themselves in marketplaces?
First, I think you need to look at how your competition is or is not differentiating themselves. It's based on ease of doing business, especially if the customer isn't using a technology solution provider to help with an implementation. And it's success of the business. Don't talk about speeds and feeds, talk about how the product is going to help solve a business pain point.
Okay. And Richard, a question for you. Should we reclassify cloud marketplaces as distributors?
No. I think that maybe, it's funny. Distributors, I've been here long enough to know that for 20 years, people have been crying that the distributors are doomed and they're going to go out of business. And they keep innovating in a manner that allows them to survive. So I don't want to get to that stage, but this is one more challenge that they're going to have to try to overcome. They're serving as a pass-through in many cases to these hyperscaler marketplaces, which is really great value add on one level, but it's also a bit of a market inefficiency. As people become more and more familiar with the solutions, I think it's going to become harder and harder for distributors to have that be their core value. Doesn't mean that they'll go away. It just means that they're going to have to continue their evolution or die, situation.
And Joe, what do you see as distribution's role in marketplace? Is there one?
Well, I'll argue that distribution has changed to big data, right? So the reason why most of us still use distribution is, we have less resources to help us in market, right? So we use them as an extension of our team. And personally, I use distribution for their data, right? So they have a lot of data that other places don't, right? So the days of pack, pick, ship, right, are kind of, I don't want to say gone, but that's not really what we use Disty for, especially on my side, right? I'm a software solution. So they definitely have that, and that's still going to remain. Most of them have adapted, right? Most of them adapted their businesses. So there is a marketplace motion, like Richard mentioned, they have partnerships. So they add their own level of value. For all of you out there considering, your overall strategy and all of your routes to market, does it make sense to you or not, right? And it's the age-old, do I want to go recruit more partners? Some of us are more in the stage of our partner programs where we want to do more with less. So we're running more of a focus strategy that maybe we have most of the relationships, but all of us should always be looking to add new partners to the mix. It'll be interesting because you have these next new breed or next gen distribution sources out there as well. So one of our largest, and we do use distribution, one of our largest growing distributors is Pax8, right? Which I know probably a lot of you out there have heard. They're more expensive, but their approach is totally different, and they're taking a cloud MSP approach. So for me, MSP is something that I want to recruit, all 100,000 plus that are out there in the globe today. It is a different recruitment strategy, and I use distribution for that. So there is a place for both. And I'd agree with Richard. It's not a replacement for distribution. It's another route to market, right? Like we said from the beginning, this is another route to market that you have to embrace on the channel.
Yeah, and I'll just say I think what Ingram Micro is doing with the Cloud Blue platform is actually pretty interesting, as it's innovation where it's allowing a mix of an ecosystem, tying it in with the marketplace. And I think that's an interesting way for that disties are trying to figure out their place in this new world.
Okay, and Heather, coming back to you for a second, you've got a traditional marketplace play, you've got customers going in. How do you incorporate your partners into that?
That is a really good question. And I also want you to turn that question on Joe and Louise as well.
Mm-hmm.
But I think first and foremost, it's the same when we were moving our partners to the cloud 20 years ago, and education is first. Engagement, make sure that your channel teams are educated on how this is going to work, and engaging with the partners as well. And then enablement, give them the resources they need to market their services on top of the solutions that are in the marketplace. So you're educating them about the marketplace, but then you're also educating them on how to develop these services and a service practice around it.
Okay. And so Louise, how do you get your partners in a traditional marketplace environment, not private offers, involved in the marketplace?
Sometimes it happens sort of organically, where they are forced into the marketplace because their end customer wants to buy via marketplace. And I had this come up just 2 days ago, where we have a pretty large SMB type partner who has a pretty big pipeline, but none of those traditional customers were going through marketplace. And then it hit. The first customer is going through marketplace, and they weren't set up to procure through marketplace. So now it's that the customer wants to buy now. They're not set up now. So we're at a disconnect. Does it go through MPPO, which is marketplace private offer, or does it go through CPPO, consulting partner private offer, which is what they would be? And the customer doesn't want to wait. So it is, I like part of, and I can talk about this, it's a bigger topic, but the strategy is, what is that strategy? Well, I need to make sure that this doesn't happen again. Otherwise, that really, really good reseller for us is going to lose their end customer, because that customer is going to go direct through AWS, and now we're going to be viewed as that, the bad ISV. So it really is let's try and get the, like what Heather said, the enablement. Like, there is a lot of opportunities out here, but they have to step into it, accept this change, accept this new role, and get enabled on what does this look like, and how is it that they're going to work in marketplace, and what's that value add.
Okay.
To Louise's point earlier, I don't know if there was an industry that didn't need more acronyms, but we got them.
So true.
So let's back up a bit, and Joe, if I can come to you. Everybody's talking about private offers.
Sure.
Number of people are using them. Define, what is a private offer? Why is it different? How does it actually work?
Yeah. So, I mean, for those of you who, I think most people out there probably understand conceptually what it is. So you have your listing, right? So on a marketplace, you have a e-commerce type listing that could just be a transaction, right? Which it's like buy now, buy now, buy now. It's a list price. There's no negotiating. It's kind of good, right? Because you get this run rate business that you don't touch. And again, back to marketplaces become another route to market. They are a partner, and that's why it should be in the channel. Then you have private offers, right? Anytime someone wants to negotiate. So the easy way to think about this is, if I have a complex enterprise deal today, my enterprise sales motion is I do a quote with a partner, and then there's negotiation, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. We're doing terms, we're doing extra discounts. That's how you offer those deals, is through a private offer, right? So it's a non-standard price, non-standard deal. So to your go-to-market strategy, it's just like we negotiate this and then we load it to a private offer, right? So with a private offer, you have two options. Like Louise said, you can take it. It could just be a private offer that goes through the marketplace to the end user, and it's just you, the marketplace, and the end user. Okay. There is another option, right? Which is you've probably all heard CPPO, which is consulting partner private offer, which is you actually allow or enable your partners to be in the middle or post these private offers, right? So that's taking the channel along with you, which is, with all of us, I think that's the way we prefer it to go, especially if a channel partner is bringing us into the deal. So this is where you can use deal registration. You can use a couple things, but most of us use deal registration for that. You let them go ahead and do the private offer. So those are the two different options. You know, I've got in follow-up, I think all of us will give some input, and people can because we've worked on business plans and pitching this to staff and the board and everybody else. So if you need help with defining this, we all have information we can share with the group on here today. But that is essentially what a private offer is think of it as a non-standard offering that you're going to offer to an end user, either through a partner or direct to the marketplace. Does that answer your? Okay, perfect.
And Louise, I want to move into private offers, or I'm just starting there. What are the getchas? What are the things I really need to be prepared for? How do I get it set up correctly?
So we're talking like CPPO, and that is an AWS term, and it stands for consulting partner. Consulting partner means a reseller for the most part, right? That's their terminology, and then PO for private offer. This is an AWS motion that you're, as an ISV, you're attaching to with your partners. So you have to work with AWS in order to get everything set up, because you have to be able to procure this motion through AWS's marketplace. So AWS has a massive team, as you can imagine, to make sure they get the most amount of consulting partners or resellers transacting through marketplace. So I would say the first step in this part of the discussion is that partner needs to reach out to their AWS person, and it's online. Like, you can just type in AWS CPPO and it has a whole list of how to get started. But that partner needs to get started through AWS, and they have to be authorized. They have to fill out their tax ID, their business number, all of those things that you would kind of like in a disty role. And then you have, as an ISV, you have to authorize them to be able to resell your software or whatever it is that they're reselling on marketplace through CPPO. So it really does start at with the reseller to AWS, and then the motion comes back to the ISV.
And Ron, if I may add something, this is where they're beginning to act like a distributor, because in essence, what they're doing is they're saying, look, we have this program where you give us a list of who you consider to be authorized partners. Then we will give special pricing to those authorized, partners around a transaction, and then they, do what they would normally do. They build in their own markup. They figure out what their value add is, and all of the things that traditionally were done with transactional partners through distribution. This sets the model for being able to do that, through AWS.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think, Rob, one of the key things too with private offers is it is just that every offer is individual, right? So think of it as we were doing quotes or private quotes. It's the same thing. So, one of the things that I always get asked by finance when you're looking at this route to market is, well, what if I don't want it to be on Amazon? You have the choice. It's a private offer, right? You have to, or your partner has to load it to actually even be. It's not like it just is something that an end user can say, hey, I want a private offer. It is truly an individual case. Back to what Louise was mentioning around getting ready for it. If you're just starting that journey, there's some excellent resources online, because you're going to have to build a team around it. Right? You're going to need to have someone manage the relationship on the beginning. You also need a technical resource of resources. So there's some really good stuff out there to set expectations as far as how you manage this relationship, because you're going to need some resources for sure on your channel team that are dedicated just to this.
I think too, back to the question, should we be reclassifying them as distributors? That's a marketing question, right? Like we can call them whatever we think they are. That's not how they're going to market themselves. Remember when we used to call technology solution providers resellers? So I think it's just the evolution of where we've gone, but marketplaces are certainly more open, more available, and not as heavy a lift.
I think it's important that vendors help their partners understand that there are requirements for AWS and other marketplaces that they have to agree to, terms that they have to agree to that are separate from the terms and the agreements that they have with us. And so helping them be prepared in that way is critical as well.
Well, hey, Kevin, one of the biggest things too is everyone needs to realize you don't control the money, right? That's the big thing. And it's internally, you're going to have that question from finance because you don't set terms for the end user and you don't collect the money, right? Those are still done by marketplaces. So this is a new distribution of funds. I know that's another whole topic that I've had a battle with our CFO is, wait a second, what do you mean I don't control or I don't collect, right? Because, you know, those terms are set up, AWS does individual agreements with the end user, and you have to accept the terms that they have. It could be net 30, which is most of them, but it could be net 45, it could be net 60, right? So that's something that you also need to realize that you no longer control the money, right?
So would you like that revenue or just
Correct.
not have that revenue at all?
Absolutely. And that's exactly how we put this is it's such a growing motion. And there's so much control out there. Back to the talks we had before about locking people into these contracts. It's too big to ignore, right? So all of you out there trying to consider it, you know, look at the public numbers of the growth of marketplaces, the public marketplaces. It's huge. And if you don't think everyone's going to shift their buying behavior to it, you better think again, right? So you just kind of have to accept it.
And Louise, if we can just drill down into that in a second, the money flow, because you don't pay the partner. AWS pays the partner.
Correct. Yeah.
So how does the money flow? Just explain it for everyone in the audience.
So it's kind of, you know, I hate to use the word distribution and tied to marketplaces because there is a different mindset against the two of them, but the marketplace vendor like an AWS is, you know, the offers between now the reseller and AWS acts as that procurement vehicle and takes that they're getting the funds. You know, you set up the private offer and they already, you know, you have that fixed, we have a fixed level discount for a CPPO partner, makes it really easy or easier anyway. And so it's just ISV to the reseller. There's a private offer there. We set what those terms are and everything flows through AWS. Is kind of like a disty model in a sense.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. And in terms of support, I know you've got a huge play with AWS. What sort of support team have you got behind that, Louise?
You put any function in and we've got someone for that. We have an operations person. We have what we call a cloud desk. Those people who are just taking just doing the operations side of the business. We have technical people, marketing, channel. I have an entire team just dedicated to our cloud ecosystem partners. So I have a distribution team, an enterprise team, an SMB team, an MSP team. Like channel is really big at Trend Micro, but I also have a cloud ecosystem team. And that is for these new wave of partners that are coming in, this transformation, this modern approach. So add in any type of function and we can put in a cloud at the very beginning or marketplace or whatever you want to call it. And we have a function for that. It is just that big.
And have you made a commitment to AWS in terms of revenue, et cetera?
Absolutely. And you make this commitment to them and then you burn it down. And the bigger your commitment of how much revenue is going to be going through AWS Marketplace, the more benefits you get. So we have a dedicated person at AWS just managing our Trend Micro relationship. And then, you know, they offer different discounts. They have marketing dollars. They offer dollars for our services partners to go in and do services to a customer to do a land and expand. Wow, that's awesome. And, you know, the more of that we can offer our end services partners, the more they're going to want to get deeply entrenched with what it is that we're doing. So yeah, we have a global number plus a US number. And yeah, we work towards that really hard.
Joe, how does it work? How does it work with Proofpoint?
So we've got a commitment on the sales side. we also are a customer, right? So we actually consume a lot of resources as well, since we use them as one of the clouds. So we have commitments on both sides, right? And like Louise said, there are a lot of benefits, right? It's part of the negotiation. The more you commit on both sides, the more resources you do get, more funds. And for all of you out there to consider it, it's interesting because you're their partner. So you will get marketing funds to do joint activities, partners involved and everything else. So it's interesting. And if you don't have all the details on it, reach out to one of us and we can help you. We could surely share. But like Louise said, if you look online, Amazon has a lot of stuff. There's a lot of other third parties too that assist, right? So for example, for our private offers and our CPPO, we actually use a third party bridge, if you will, that a lot of us use. It's called Tackle, which some people have probably heard of Tackle. They've got some excellent resources out there that you can download. It's free. Kind of how to get started, set expectations. Like I said, you start with one team and they go through the transition of you've got almost the business development piece of here's what you need to have in place minimum. Then you have a ramp, and then you have scale, right? Where your teams this has become, if you talk to a lot of us in the channel, this is one of our biggest growth areas. So when we're doing, like right now, I'm doing 2023 planning. My big ask for headcount is going to go more into this motion than any other motion I have. So it's real.
Okay. And Joe, a question coming in. Does Tackle.io have all the MPPO features you need to fully rely on them?
Well, you should always check out Tackle yourself. I know a lot of us use them, and we found that they have the features we need. Think of it this way. We're a Salesforce user, which is most people out there. They do have that bridge to kind of take a private offer and turn it into a Salesforce opportunity. That's why I like it. And it also helps track the money. There is some stuff. You should probably go to their website, and it's just tackleio.com or Tackle.io. And you can do that. I can put it in the chat as well.
Okay. And
Rod, can I just add on to what Joe just said around 2023 planning? I think we're talking a lot of nuts and bolts right now, but I think we have to kind of go up a bit and look at what does your plan and your strategy actually look like for marketplace as a whole? And what does it look like in your channel? And I would really encourage everyone, as they're doing their 2023 planning, figure out what your strategy is first and then back into it. And I say that because let's say you do get hit with this customer who wants to go buy through marketplace and you don't have that reseller set up. Are you going to displace the incumbent, or are you just going to let that transaction happen through MPPO? It burns down your EDP with AWS, but it doesn't help your partner. So are you going to go direct? Are you going to have, I would really, really set forward, what does that strategy look like? And your sales team has to be absolutely bought into this. Will they get quota relief on going with customer goes through MPPO? Or are you going to mandate that every deal has to go through CPPO if there was an incumbent partner beforehand? I would really set that strategy and make sure your teams really understand. Otherwise, you're going to have a whole lot of spaghetti where you're going to have a lot of sellers just going, oh, I'll throw it on MPPO. I don't need a partner. And then you're losing visibility. You're losing your channel program. There's all kinds of things that are going to happen if you don't know what your strategy is up front.
Yeah, I think that this is the second half to what you need to be thinking about. All these marketplaces support on their end co-selling, but you have to ask yourself as a vendor, how are we supporting co-selling? Yeah. How is that changing your sales force's compensation program? What does that mean for your quota system? And, all of those types of things, because for the most part, those can all be reported out against, from the marketplace vendors. But it does mean that you probably need to really be evaluating the direct side of the business in terms of how they are partnering with your partners and with marketplaces, to deliver solutions.
Yeah, and I think, one of the things, and Louise mentioned this before, you can have partners that aren't ready, right? Like you gave the example of, hey, the end user is almost mandating, and we've seen the same thing. We've seen end users mandate, I will buy through this because I need to burn down that's how powerful this is. One of the things that I'm looking at in close to rolling out is almost like a referral or type of program where maybe it's just incentivized during that. So again, back to the co-sale versus how do we make sure partners are still involved. I'm actually looking at agent models and things like that, which traditionally you've seen that in telco, in telecom, but that's other things we're considering because that may be easier for some of our partners because they go through all of the hoops. Now, it all goes back to add value, right? So I'll always tie it back to deal registration or something like that, where is the partner bring us in and adding value? And if it's just straight resale, maybe it's cleaner to just do like a referral fee or something like that. So like Louise said, there is a lot of planning that goes into it. And if you're not thinking of, if you think this is just something you can just flip the switch and say, hey, I'm now offering a new route to channel market, which is marketplace, not easy at all, right? Because you're going to get, the other thing that's nice, you can outline how many groups within the organization are going to be involved. I mean, legal, right? I went back and forth with legal for over a year on the overall contract, just because that's the way it is sometimes. Huge. So it's a huge impact to finance because this is a different way we're transacting. You do have sales, field sales, channel sales, all of this. So it in fact it changes a lot within the organization. And what happens is you're also going to get pulled into e-staff. You're going to get pulled into board meetings, and you're really going to have to explain what all does this change. So be prepared for that. It's not as easy as just flipping a switch for sure.
Yeah, Joe, you're 100% right. It does change every single department. I think about marketing. The marketing teams are used to driving traffic to our websites. Amazon wants us to drive traffic to their website and pulling in and then being involved in their initiatives. So everything has to be looked at from a strategic standpoint.
Yeah, absolutely.
Excellent. We're almost at the end, and I have a few questions that we haven't been able to cover. So I'm going to pop those out very quickly. And to Joe and Louise, if you look at, I'll change the question. The question is actually, what percentage of bookings do you expect to transact through the top hyperscalers? You may not be comfortable answering that, but in terms of growth of channels, where do marketplaces sit? Are they the fastest growing channel, one of the fastest? Where are they for both of you?
Louise, I'll let you go first always.
Oh, you're so kind, Joe. I think the business is fastest growing with cloud just in general in marketplaces. And I think channel has been slower to adopt to it. And I am on massive amounts of calls with a number of really, really big partners and names not to be disclosed who are still trying to figure out what does it look like and how, and I'm like, oh my gosh, it's going to hit. And if you don't get set up as a CPPO partner, and if you aren't enabling your sellers and really, really incentivizing them to move through, you're going to be left behind. So I find in some parts of the channel business, it has been slow. But, you know, I talked about, I built a cloud channel team just to go after these cloud forward partners. That is taking off, and it's different. It's a different model. It's really much like a business development mindset, a startup, entrepreneurial, because we don't know what we don't know. So it's a real different approach, and it's a lot of fun. The traditional, yeah, they're getting there, but it's slower, at least in my side of the business. Joe, I'll turn it back to you.
Fastest growing, Rob. I think I mentioned it before. And we're seeing double. I mean, we're projecting double, triple type numbers. So fastest growing area for us personally. I know a lot of my peers out there, they'd probably tell you the same thing. So we're making more of the investments. Again, don't leave behind all of your other partners. You know, to Louise's point, we do have partners just like her that aren't embracing it. Now, I also have a lot of security partners that are all in, right? So there are a couple early adopters who've been doing this for a couple of years. And even if you talk to places like Amazon, they'll tell you, hey, this partner's all in. They're a shining example. But, you know, I would say it's the fastest growing area of the business, and especially in channels, Rob.
Okay. got a question that I think probably is quite appropriate for Heather. What do you see as the value of microsites for companies like Intel, NVIDIA, ISM, et cetera, within cloud marketplaces?
Sorry, I'm just reading that again. Microsites.
Yep.
It goes back to where are people finding your information? I think a microsite within a marketplace, if that's what your type of customer is going to be looking for, and you can use SEO to get them to that microsite, I think that's hugely valuable. It depends on your product. Is your product 10% of the total purchase, or is it 80% of the total purchase? If it's 10%, probably not. I think people are just going to find you and it's going to be a suggested add-on. If it's more of the entire purchase, then sure, but it has to be informative and it has to be able to be found. Just because you build it doesn't mean they will come. You actually need to draw them to it.
Okay, so we're just about out of time. So a very quick question to each of you, and please be brief in the answer. One final piece of advice on marketplaces, and I'll start with you, Kevin.
So I think when you think about marketplaces, make sure that you have good listings, good communication, good process, and that you're building strong relationships.
Louise.
I would lean on AWS or Microsoft or GCP, whichever platform. They have a lot of resources. You don't have to know everything. They know a lot and they can support you. And you know what Joe said, they know the partners that are embracing this. Like, I would really lean on those vendors because they will help you and it's in their best interest to help you.
Excellent. Richard.
Yeah, I think, from as you see more of your business move to cloud and more of that cloud business move to marketplaces, this is going to become more and more strategically important for you. And the trend is that is going to grow and accelerate over time rather than diminish. So I think both Joe and Louise mentioned that this is where they're asking for their additional resources, for next year. And this needs to be probably one of your key investment areas if it's not already.
Excellent. Heather.
I would piggyback on that. I think it's a top-down and bottom-up approach. You need to make sure that your customers know you're available on a marketplace, and the customers that are in the marketplace who maybe don't know about you or are looking at someone else, you need to draw them to you as well. So top-down and bottom-up.
Brilliant. And Joe, last but absolutely by no means least.
Can I just say what they said? No. So listen, I've used marketplaces as one of my channel routes to market for about 8, 9 years. I was an early adopter. So obviously I have my own opinion of that. Do your research. Like Louise said, I mean, there's a lot of resources out there. Use any of us. I mean, obviously, Rod, people can reach out to you as well. I think we've had a lot of really good information in around the tech, but also the go-to-market. It's going to change a lot, right? So be very thoughtful for it. This could also be, like Louise mentioned, you really need to look at compensation. And if you have a mixed model, which I do, direct and indirect, even though 85% or so of my business goes through channel, you have to be very thoughtful as far as if they get compensated the same going direct versus through a partner. You've got to have those conversations, right? You have to have those conversations and make sure that you're not creating an unfair advantage to your channel program and your channel partners by letting it go a certain route. You have to be very thoughtful. You're going to have a lot of conversations with finance as far as payment terms and all those other wonderful things. Use someone that's been through the journey because we've all, gathered a lot of information. So we could reach out to us and we can definitely help you. I'll be happy to help. And I know, the rest of us here on the panel would be happy to help as well and share what we've learned through our journey through the last years.
Fabulous. Heather, Louise, Richard, Kevin, and Joe, great information, fabulous insights. Really, really appreciate it. Thank you so much. I think everyone's learned a huge amount. And there will be a survey coming up as you come out of this. We would love, please do just take a couple of moments. We want to hear how we're doing with these webinars and the webinar program. But once again, a huge thank you to Heather, to Louise, to Richard, to Kevin, and to Joe. Thank you so very, very much.
Thank you all. Bye.
Thanks,
Thank
everyone.
you.